It's Monday, but who needs office blues when you've got fairway views? We're rolling into the first competition of the year as the reigning champ. There's a huge target on my back today and the pressure's hotter than a bunker in July. Let's go make some birdies on a very windy day. We're diving deep into my tiny golfing mind to show how I navigate the course and potentially win the tournament back-to-back, starting on the first, possibly drivable today downwind, so ripping dog. And really, I could not have navigated that any better. That's delicious. I was aiming straight at the marker post, and that's exactly where it's gone. Hairs all over the place. Don't mind that though, we've ended up just short of the green, which is as close as I've ever been actually. Tough to judge early doors, so just trying to roll it up the green, land it just on. Not quite what I had in mind, and I've left myself work for birdie when I was hoping for a tap-in. Let's see what I can do though, should be fairly straight up the hill. Well, that's quite simply everything I wanted and more on the first, and pretty much the perfect start. However, we're now straight back into the teeth of the wind, and having been hitting 5-iron off this tee, I'm nearly getting blown over and having to hit the big dog. And I'm not overselling it when I say I'd just like this to stay on planet Earth. And I'm delighted to report that that's sublime. You could probably tell I took a little off it just to try and guide it, but it's worked out brilliantly. I've missed the fairway left. That's not really an issue because I've now taken the OB left completely out of play. And now we're just trying to stick this 100-yard shot somewhere near the flag for a birdie putt. I wimped out. You might have heard me comment saying I've wimped out, but actually I've misjudged the wind a bit, which has pushed my ball to the right. And it's left me with this. I'm in the rough and it's a tiny bit scabby if I'm honest, so I've opted for the flat stick. There's a lot of swing left to right, so I'm just trying to lay this dead if I can. A tiny bit aggressive, but wanted to make sure I didn't leave myself a downhill slider, so this for par. That's a lovely little confidence boost. And yes, heart is pumping, we're 1 under through 2, and I'm delighted with that. But now we have the scariest tee shot on the course, albeit straight downwind. Therefore, I've opted for 3-wood just to keep it short of the ravine that's up there. That's been suitably pounded on a brilliant line. No complaints from me. However, you know that ravine I was talking about moments ago? Somehow it's now behind me and my ball's hopped over it. I've never been here either, so the wind is exceptionally strong. I've just got 80 yards and honestly trying to hit this about 65. I would say the less said about those hand gestures the better, but as suggested, I've gone miles past and now have a very tricky, well, I was going to say 2-putt, but it's not a 2-putt. I'm actually on the fringe, but I am putting it. Not really my strong suit either. Distance control is usually iffy at best, and it shows there. And aside from the fantastic view in the back, this is a very, very naughty putt. Well, I would have loved to have made that. Unfortunately, that's the first bogey on the card and dropped shot. Although from 80 yards, a bit of a disappointment to say the very least. And now we move on to a hole that's usually the easiest on the course, I feel like, because it's drivable. Not today, though. I'm trying to hit a stinger 4-iron just to get me in play and hope for the best after that. No chance of reaching with the driver today, so that'll do nicely. Now, I've only got 116 yards to that flag, but the wind is howling into me towards 7 on the clock. So I'm hitting a 140 shot with the 9-iron, trying to swoop it in from the right. Honestly, anything on the green is actually good here. Unfortunately, that was anything but, and now we have a bit of trouble to try and get up and down just for a par. Luckily, I can use what I learned on the first and maybe get this one close and get out of here with a very, very questionable par. Clearly, I have learned absolutely nothing, and now we have an outside look just to save par, and this to stay at level for the tournament. Oddly, that tried its level best to make it in, but that will be a bogey. To 1 over par we go. Key is not to try and get upset about that. The wind is playing havoc with the yardages today. I was going to say let's stay positive, but we now have 185 yards down the hill. It plays 165, but straight into the draft again, so 190? I'm honestly not exaggerating when I say I would give my left nut to hit the green here with the 5-iron. Thinned it a tiny bit, which worked to my advantage, and I'm there, actually long of pin high, but we have a chance for birdie, albeit a very much outside one. 2 putts the order of the day, por favor. Okay, so the putt never had a chance of going in, but a solid 3 is absolutely brilliant on that hole today. Sometimes you just have to temper your expectations, especially in the wind. Now we move to the short 6th and just a 4-iron for position here. Stating the obvious a little, but not my best swing, needs a bit of luck as it's heading towards the trees. And we've only gone and got it. Absolutely prime position now, albeit a quite considerable left to right wind here. Just trying to chip it towards the green with the 52, land it about 10 yards short and dribble it up to this back pin. Looks magnificent in the air. Unfortunately, landed on the main road and bounced over the back of the green. I jest. Was a bit unlucky, I'll be honest. The lie though back here is absolutely horrific. Just got to sort of stab down on the back of the ball, try and motion it forward towards it, and we're just praying to get it reasonably close in all honesty. You will hear me talk about lies around the greens in the rough a few times today. This is the first time this year that we're playing it as it lies as opposed to preferred lies that you get in winter. But I've managed to deliver a brilliant chip there. I'm delighted to make par, albeit I thought I'd played some good shots on that hole. Not to worry though, on to 7, a tough driving hole, so I've opted for the 4-piece again, just for position, aiming down that centre stripe, trying to hit the fairway. That's exactly what the doctor ordered, even thrown in a club twirl just for good measure. Not convinced that was really necessary, but that 4-iron has gone a lot further than I actually expected. I've only got 105 yards in here, so just trying to land this on the front and it should roll up to that middle pin. Well, not quite. We're on the green. It's a long birdie putt though, straight up the hill. So honestly, just trying to get this to tap-in range, not really one to have a run at. And if you've watched some of my channel before, you'll know that's a hallmark of my game, classic Johnny, leaving it a foot short. However, I will take a par on that hole. They're always going to be my friend today. The more pars, the better, please. On to the 8th. Sometimes driver, but not today. I've gone for the 5-iron. It's a 220 run out, so I'm trying to land this about 190. That should leave me in a good position for my second. Now I've struck that quite well, but if you can tell by my pants, the wind was a lot stronger and into me than I thought, and I've left myself a long way back. This is a 7-iron when I was hoping for something like a 50 degree, so I'd be happy just to get this somewhere on the green.
No.
Normally when the ball's below your feet like that, I'd advise you that it's going to go right, but not in that case. That's gone miles left. This is a very, very tricky chip. Honestly, just trying to dump this into that uphill slope, run it down, and anything on the green would be a great shot. I've only gone and made the cardinal sin of leaving my chip short, and it's just as bad as before, if not worse, because it's fiddly and I'm on a downslope. Just trying to get this up and down for bogey now, and that seems like a win. Thankfully I've found my mitts in the depths of my golf bag. Should tidy up for a bogey. Not too bad in the end after a fairly poor hole. And we moved to the 9th, 2 over par, and I'm actually quite pleased with that in all honesty. The conditions are tough, and now we've got 165 yards. It's anyone's guess, downwind. I've gone for the 8-iron, just trying to land it short and run it up. That is all over it. Impossible to tell how close that is because you can't see the putting surface. But I'm 25 feet long, and you can see here that I'm looking at the putt from the side and behind to get an idea of how far downhill it is and then how far left to right it is. But this for a 2 and what would be a great front 9. That was carrying some wheels, but it doesn't matter, it's hit the back of the hole. We moved to +1 after 9 holes, and that constitutes a fantastic front 9. The back 9's going to be tough though. I need to keep my wits about me. Starting here, this is a 9-iron, pins far back right. Aiming at the left edge of the green and let the wind have its wicked way with this. This looks like everything I wanted and more, but I'll leave it to the on-course commentary to sum it up.
That was such a good golf shot, and it's ended up so shit.
Brutal assessment, but very true. The difficulty being, I'm so close that it's quite fiddly, but I need speed just to get this moving towards the hole. Scrap everything I said, we're back to level with 2 2s in a row, and we're on cloud 9 now. Have to prod the reset button though and focus here because it's not an easy drive. I've got the big dog, aiming to just bunt one at the furthest pylon in the distance. It's leaking. This could be from ecstasy straight into agony. It seems the golfing gods are still on our side, although I've got to sling this towards the out of bounds on the right and let the wind drift it back. It's not an easy shot, albeit from 110 yards.
Oh, this needs to sit.
Talking to your ball mid-air never seems to help.
Get in.
Hard to see on camera, but that was ever so close to going in the hole. For a third 2 in a row, that would have been quite insane. But it's dribbled out to here. This for a third birdie on the trot. And delusions of grandeur. Not to be this time, but a solid 4. I'll never complain on that hole. Very tough.
Even that wasn't simple.
Speaking of which, now comes the camera falling over. What I was going to say was the 12th hole, 425 yards from this back tee and slightly into the wind as well today. So I need my Sunday best drive. And that's absolutely the complete and utter opposite. And yes, left, OB, reload.
It's just as bad.
I mean, the commentary suggests I've hit that OB as well. It's not that bad. But as we're playing a Stableford, I basically need to make a birdie with my second ball just to score, or we pick up and move on. And this massive dead tree's in the way, so I have to keep this 7-iron low, which isn't ideal, but should look cool on camera. Did not mean to hit it that low, so that's going to come up short and leave me a very tricky chip that has to go in. It's as simple as that. And to be honest, I could have played this about 70 different ways, opted to go high, hit a good shot, but we're picking up. That's a 6 for none, and our first possible card wrecker. However, not going to let it faze me. There's a lot of golf still to be played, and I'm playing nicely. Now on to the 13th, usually a pitching wedge. I've got 7-iron. That's how windy it is. Just trying to chip this forward, keep it under the wind. Everything about that was sensational. All I needed to do is just go in. Not too much to ask for. Didn't do that. But a good leave, about 15 feet short. But the greenkeepers decided to put the hole on a big slope, so a lot of turn in this 15-footer. Yes, that's appalling. Managed to leave myself 3 feet short, and this is no gimme. Thankfully, my clean-up work has been exceptional so far. Big puff of the cheeks. Now we've got 2 par 5s in 3 holes, so a chance to make up for that horrific double. Nothing really to worry about here, just open the shoulders. That's almost certainly my best of the day. We'll head down to the fairway, as I will 100% be having a dart at the green here. Here we go then, 4-iron in hand, trees aren't an issue down there, wind's off the right, so this is going to sling from right to left with my normal ball flight. Try and land it 30 yards short, run it down to tapping range, eagle. That's exactly what I've asked for.
Oh no.
You've heard me shout no on commentary. It's smashed into the downslope short of the green and is carrying a bit of speed. Love that footwork, but we've gone a bit long. Not to worry though, up and down from here for birdie would be more than satisfactory. Needless to say, it was uphill and I've left it short as a result. This for birdie though, more questionable hand gestures.
Yes!
Huge confidence boost there as that goes in for birdie. We're back to 1 over now. I do feel like I need a couple more birdies coming in. Maybe not here though, good drive needed. Very, very tight tee shot. To be fair, my driver very rarely lets me down, and that's a stonking drive. And if I'm being really pernickety, I wouldn't have minded being 20 yards further back, so I'd have had a full shot in. I've only got 56, but I'm trying to actually open the blade a bit to get some height, because I can't stop this otherwise. And honestly, not entirely sure exactly how I'd have done better there. I'm just on the fringe. It's only about 10 feet though down the hill. Would absolutely love to make this. This would be massive.
Too hard. Whoa.
On this occasion though, I think I probably wanted it too much and just blasted it through the break. Tidied up for par though, a good score on that hole in my book. Now another par 5. Danger lurks left, so we're not going to go there. Aiming up the right-hand side of the fairway and let the wind just drift it back. That's the plan anyway.
Oh, it's awful.
There we see the most anti-left swing of all time. That's off down the previous hole. In no danger, but we're probably not able to go for it from there with tree trouble here. So just a 6-iron from the right edge of the wrong fairway. just to get back in play. Job done on that front. Back to where we need to be. Hopefully now we can just make a birdie the hard way. We've only got 105 yards, but we're on a severe downslope and a hanging lie, so I'm aiming just right of this flag. Hopefully it'll just drift on the wind back to it. Need a good un.
Wind?
Nothing about that screams we're making birdie. It's not my best. We are putting, albeit it's about a 45-foot downhill left to righter, so just trying to get this stone dead. Close but no cigar. It'll be a tap in 5.
I'm happy with that, in all
Not
honesty.
too upset with that. The tee shot was to blame, I would say. 2 holes to go then, still 1 over. Pretty tough par 3 this though, especially from this back tee. It normally plays about 115, but we've now got about 145, so I've got a chippy 8 iron going straight at it.
Oh.
Trouble.
Oh, how has that ended up there?
Bad news, I'm afraid. It only takes 1 or 2 degrees on that club face to be open, and we've ended up in the hazard. I've dropped, and now we're playing 3. This is looking like curtains at this rate. Need a chip in.
No spin.
I've come a cropper again, just too aggressive trying to make that. This is an awful little 5-footer, aiming a good 1.5 cups outside left. Nearly, but it's a game of inches, and unfortunately that's the second double bogey on the back 9, and I think chance is gone. This for posterity purposes. I think I can reach with the driver with a good one, so I'll be swinging out of my tiny shoes here.
Whoa, what's going on with that?
Difficult to see on camera, but that was so toey that the ball has dive-bombed out the air. I'm not entirely sure how it's ended up here, but we're actually greenside, albeit with a very tricky chip across the green. Clearly I'm running out of steam in a big way. I've left that a mile short and still got a lot to do just to make birdie here, but this would be a nice consolation. Unfortunately I had that going straight and it meant miles right. Not to be this time, 35 points or 3 over par in total. Hope you've loved the content. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see so much more. Goodbye.